What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
As Udayana discount, enjoy up to 70% off from Vikramahachi.
Deshabandhu Tennakone appointed Acting Inspector General of Police.
Sri Lanka ජනතාවගේ යහපත සඳහා පොලිස් සේවාව ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාම තමයි මගේ අරමුණ තියෙන්නේ.
An agreement in principle has been reached between the Official Creditor Committee and Sri Lanka on debt restructuring, says Paris Club. Review of the IMF program will be complete in December, says President. Sri Lanka rupee slumps against the dollar again. Medical Supplies Division Director and 4 others remanded over fake medicines. Parliamentarian Harshana proposes for the presidential and parliamentary elections to be held on the same day.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
As Udayana discount, enjoy up to 70% off from Vikramahachi.
First up in news here at home, President Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed Senior DIG Deshabandhu Tennakone as the Acting Inspector General of Police. Sri Lanka Police in a statement said that the appointment was made as per the powers vested in the President by the Constitution.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed Senior DIG Deshabandhu Tennakone as the Acting Inspector General of Police for a period of 3 months with effect from the 29th of November. The acting IGP visited the Hunupitiya Gangarama temple in Colombo and called on Venerable Dr. Kirinde Asajithero to obtain blessings before engaging in religious observances.
There is no political ground for anyone attached to the security forces and for those involved in religion. The police chief and the commander of the armed forces in the country, as well as the religious leaders, must build a mindset that can be used to look at the people in a more humane manner. We have seen that in your journey, you must not venture into the my men concept and think of the entire police force at large. I believe you would do so.
බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
Following religious observances, the acting IGP commented on future programs.
I have been a ranking officer in the police force for 25 years. I have experience and many senior officers with me who have a vision. My objective is to take forward the police force that would serve the people better along with their expertise. My priority is national security. We need to show more interest in what we do. The drug menace is a serious issue in the villages, especially among school children. I have a program to deal with it, and I also have to take action on organized crime, including threats and extortion.
සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධ වලින් ඇතිවෙලා තියෙන තර්ජනය කප්පන් වගේ දේවල් සම්බන්ධව ක්‍රියා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Deshabandhu Tennakone is a product of Nalanda College, Colombo, and joined Sri Lanka Police on the 23rd of February 1998 as an Assistant Superintendent of Police. He was promoted to acting senior DIG in November 2019, and in December the same year he was appointed as the senior DIG in charge of the Western Province. Deshabandhu Tennakone had held multiple positions in Sri Lanka Police and was deployed to many areas across Sri Lanka in order to maintain law and order.
The launch of a book titled The Final Answer, authored by Aruna Pradeep Kumar, was held in Colombo today. Former President of the Bar Association, President's Counsel Salya Peiris expressed the following remarks during the event. We saw the President threatening the Constitutional Council last week. What he claimed was either the Constitutional Council accepts the names he nominates or he will appoint a parliamentary select committee to lay down procedures for the Constitutional Council. Institutions and organs of governance that must be strengthened are being weakened. They may be commissions, the judiciary or even the legislature. If the executive continues to dampen the authority of such institutions, Sri Lanka might face a situation similar to that of Congo or Gabon in the near future. I do not know if there will be a final answer to our country, but we must always attempt to enforce democracy and the rule of law. The Constitutional Council must approve the President's recommendations. I cannot become a puppet. The members of the Council should be fearless and face the Executive President's threats. It is the only way we can ensure that the appointments made to positions of influence are unbiased and accurate. A story that made the headlines. An agreement in principle has been reached between the Official Creditor Committee and Sri Lanka on debt restructuring.
A statement from the Paris Club noted that an official creditor committee co-chaired by India, Japan and France and Sri Lanka agreed on the main parameters of a debt treatment consistent with those of the extended fund facility arrangement between Sri Lanka and the IMF. It said that this agreement will allow the IMF staff to present to the IMF Executive Board the first review of Sri Lanka's EFF agreement and open the way for approval of the second disbursement under the arrangement. The official creditor committee said that it stands ready and looks forward to formalizing this agreement in the coming weeks in a memorandum of understanding with the Sri Lankan authorities. The OCC expects other bilateral creditors to consent to sharing in a transparent manner the information necessary for the OCC to evaluate comparability of treatment regarding their own bilateral agreement. The agreement with the group of creditor nations comes about a month after the heavily indebted island nation reached a deal with the Export-Import Bank of China covering about $4.2 billion of outstanding debt. The OCC also expects that the Sri Lankan authorities will continue to engage with their private creditors to find as soon as possible an agreement on terms at least as favorable as the terms offered by the OCC. These engagements will ensure that the overall debt treatment granted to Sri Lanka is consistent with the IMF program parameters. The OCC commends the Sri Lankan authorities for their continuous efforts in implementing the reforms necessary for their country's return to a sustainable path. Following the launch event in April 2023, 17 countries formally formed on May 9th an official creditor committee or an OCC co-chaired by India, Japan and France as chair of the Paris Club to respond to the Sri Lankan authorities' request for a debt treatment. The committee includes India and Hungary in addition to Paris Club creditors. Since then, the OCC has engaged extensively with the Sri Lankan authorities, the IMF, the World Bank, as well as China and Sri Lanka's private creditors.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe, speaking at the 2023 Sri Lanka Economic Summit, expressed optimism that the IMF board would conclude the first review of Sri Lanka's EFF program within the month of December.
I don't know whether what we've done can be called reform. If you look at the meaning of reform, which I had done, which I did a few weeks back, this is not reform. It's a restructuring and a radical restructuring. And there's no going back. Now we've got to realize this. What is taking place now is something that can't be turned back. We've got to work within this new policy frame. We have made significant progress in the efforts to restructure its debt in order to restore debt sustainability. The government, along with its financial legal advisors, have been engaged in good faith negotiations with all its creditors over the last several months. All creditor groups have been very cooperative and constructive in their engagement with us. With regard to the official creditors, Sri Lanka engaged in negotiations with the Official Creditor Committee and in parallel with China Exim Bank. Contrary to many expectations, Sri Lanka has been able to successfully navigate this process due to its transparency and good faith engagement. China Exim Bank was the first to provide Sri Lanka with agreement in principle on specific financial terms to restructure the country's debt. We expect the Official Creditors Committee to provide a similar agreement in principle very shortly. With this, we expect that the IMF board will be in a position to conclude the first review of Sri Lanka's EFF program within the month of December. We are mainly relying on a long-term extension of the debt. But what does this mean? The economic principles on which we will operate for the future is what has gone into these net negotiations. If we go away from it, then the creditors are entitled to act. So we are now fixed. We have to work within this frame, within this agreement. And next time, if we don't have this system, if we don't agree, we don't have a long-term agreement, the next government, someone will want to turn it back and give the goodies. We are all within this framework. It's a radical restructuring. For us, this is the last chance. Either we've got to take it or bust it. So this is for economic stabilization. That alone is not enough. After we stabilize the economy, what are we going to do? Are we going to again have a balance of payment deficit and unable to balance our budget? Then we will have this again within 10 years. I can give it to you in writing. If you go on like this, you will have another crisis within 10 years, maybe earlier. So we have to change. You will all have to be very competitive, either to compete with imports or to export. We are having free trade agreements, which means in the next 5 to 15 years, the tariffs will have to be adjusted and that will have to be downwards. That's where competition is going to come in.
Following his address, President Wickremesinghe participated in a panel discussion which included Montek Singh Ahluwalia, former Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission of India.
Efforts are underway to raise substantial funds for countries such as Sri Lanka during the United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as COP28. COP28 will take place from the 30th of November until the 12th of December in Dubai. We'll have a look at that story a little later. First up now, the Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka toured Mannar.
The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, attended an event to distribute school bags and other educational equipment to 1,000 selected students in the Mannar district. 250 students from the Madhu Economic Zone in Mannar were given school supplies at the Murugan Central College in Mannar.
Education is the best way to empower. India has been associated with development of education in Sri Lanka, whether it is housing sector, construction of 45,000 houses, or agriculture, or railway line, or other assistance to the people. India has always supported the people of Sri Lanka.
The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, visited the Mannar District General Hospital and looked into the issues at the premises. Thereafter, he also visited the Thalai Mannar jetty.
Former President Mahindra Rajapaksa worshipped the Jayasri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura.
Former President Mahindra Rajapaksa, after paying homage to the Jayasri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura, called upon the Attamasthanadipati, the most venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thera, and obtained blessings. The former president also engaged in a conversation with several children. Former President Mahindra Rajapaksa also responded to questions posed by the media.
කියලා හිතන විදියට හරිද වැරදිද කියන එක. දැන් අපි දකිනවා මේ පක්ෂේ යම් කිසි මේ පිබිරීමක් ඇති කරන්න ඔබතුමා මැදිහත් වෙලා දැන් නැවත අපි අපේ යුතුයකමනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉදිරි ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ අපි සූදානම් වෙනවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්. ජනතාවගේ පැත්තේ අපි ඉන්නවා.
MP Vimalavira Disanayake said that on the 15th of December, the Sugadadasa Indoor Stadium will be filled with SLPP supporters.
On the 15th of December, the Sugadadasa Indoor Stadium will be filled with our supporters. We are using this space as we have no alternative due to rainy weather conditions. Yet, we can still fill Galway's green with our supporters. The coffin that was sealed on the 9th of May last year has risen. You cannot destroy a party like that. You cannot destroy the Rajapaksas and the SLPP. On the 15th, we will bring our supporters from across the country for a massive convention at the Sugadadasa Indoor Stadium.
Chairman of the National Trade Union Centre, KD Lalkant, addressed the 16th anniversary celebrations of the Government Printer Employees Union today. Here's what he had to say regarding elections that are slated to be held next year.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා තියන්න වෙනවා ව්‍යවස්ථාවට අනුව ඔක්තෝබර් 17යි.
As per the constitution, the presidential election must be held between the 17th of September and 17th of October. If so, nominations should be called by August. If the people want to put an end to this current rule that has destroyed the country for 74 years and embark on a new style of rule, he must be sent home at the upcoming election. There are only 9 months remaining. Their thought process at present is this. They have worked out that if a presidential election is held, a progressive regime comes to power and a parliamentary election is held thereafter, they will not win any seats. If so, they wish to hold a general election prior to the presidential election. Then, such an election will be held very soon, either in May, June or July. Regardless of when the general election is held, the presidential election must be finalized by August. That cannot be stopped. I will now reveal a plan they have hatched to respond to this. New characters are being introduced to the political stage while criticizing the traditional political culture. In that, a group of businessmen are being introduced. Those people have achieved a certain amount of success in their respective fields. Is Dilith here? Where is Derana? There it is. A person such as him establishes a certain business, but they slander the current political establishment, saying they too were deceived. He knows he won't win. Then comes Dhammika Pereira. He says since he established an empire, he can develop the country as well because the current political culture is a failure. Successful cricketers are also in this. An entire group will enter the presidential race. None of them will be contesting to win, but that plan is being struck by those in power at present. Another candidate to represent them will also be fielded. Through this, they hope to distribute the percentage of votes the JJB would gain by persuading the people to vote for other candidates, because we know that in a presidential election, the percentage of votes is the key factor.
ජනාධිපති ප්‍රතිශතය වැදගත්. ඉහළ මට්ටමක තියලා මෙතෙන්ට එකතු වෙන ප්‍රතිශතය කෑලි වලට කඩලා තැන් තැන් වල චුට්ට අතන මෙතන කෑලි කඩන.
SJB MP Harshana Rajkaruna has requested the President to hold the presidential and general election on the same day next year to form a government with a popular mandate.
Some people are of the opinion that President Ranil Wickremesinghe will not contest for the presidential election, but that is none of our concern. But we request him to please hold a general election soon. The politicians who have no people's mandate come into power and destroy the country. Even if he contests individually or with the Rajapaksas, he will lose. Hold the presidential election and the general election on the same day. If that involves legal impediments, let's take steps to change them and hold the elections on the same day. A president and parliamentarians with the people's mandate are essential for the country.
Creating an environment conducive for children to learn and enhance their knowledge is a vital aspect for any nation striving for development. But how many children in modern Sri Lanka struggle to further their education amidst a multitude of untold hardships? Our Gunm the team in Gunm met a group of students and teachers facing the same plight.
The Yala National Park is renowned for its rich flora and fauna, but the Gonagangara Junior School, situated in close proximity to the park, has not gained any attention from anyone. 311 children are educated at this institution. 3 of them even passed the scholarship exam this year. Unfortunately, the children in grade 5 do not even have a proper classroom to learn. Wild elephants encroach on the school towards the evening on most days. The Gonagangara village too is severely underdeveloped. Although they obtain water from the Manik river, that too is purchased. That water is contaminated. Therefore, kidney patients are commonplace. The entire village of Thalliyadda in Horombawa Kurunegala has no dependable supply of water for 40 years. People of 60 families are forced to carry 10 to 15 pots of water a day. The administration of the Maddepola Junior School in Giriulla do not even have the facilities to print question papers for children. Residents of Maddepola do not have access to clean drinking water. A majority of the 450 families residing in Kannaginagar Kilinochi are fisher folk, but the Sundikuluam Lagoon only retains water for 3 months annually, forcing the residents to lead harsh lives for the rest of the year. The lack of a proper drainage system has inconvenienced families in the Puliyampokane village for many years. Residents of Pudukadu are constantly under threat by wild elephants. Gunm and the teams are travelling from door to door, accompanied by students of the University of Peradeniya. Their dedication to this cause results in the annual Gunm at the door-to-door report being published. Our teams will continue to visit villages in the Monaragala, Kurunegala and Kilinochi districts tomorrow as well.
Gunm, made in Sri Lanka. Newsfirst with the people.
Locals from Gunm protested opposite the Yakkala hospital demanding a solution to the perennial human-elephant conflict.
Locals from Gunm commenced a protest against the human-elephant conflict from opposite the Yakkala Regional Hospital and then proceeded to the Hurulueva Junction. They engaged in a protest by obstructing one lane of the road, and thereafter Sri Lanka police made attempts to move them off the road. However, defiant protesters said they would not move out of the road until an agreement is reached with a responsible official. Thereafter, Sri Lanka police intervened to get the divisional secretary over the phone, and the locals requested that the official visit the location and inquire into the issue. As the divisional secretary's arrival to the protest site was delayed, the protesters decided to block the Gunm-Kakirava road from the Hurulueva Junction. Two hours later, the Assistant Divisional Secretary of Gunm, Senakavira Singha, visited the location. The protesting locals dispersed only after an assurance was given to discuss the matter with the wildlife officials within 2 days to take measures to protect the villagers.
Moving back to a story that we earlier mentioned, efforts are underway to raise substantial funds for countries such as Sri Lanka during the United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as COP28. COP28 will take place from the 30th of November until the 12th of December in Dubai.
A delegation headed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe will attend COP28. The event will see many world leaders, organizations and influential figures in the business and investment sectors converging in Dubai to attend. During the conference, the President expects to present a proposal to launch a climate justice forum represented by countries including Sri Lanka affected by climate change caused by industrial activities. This forum aims to lobby developed nations to pledge $100 billion annually for affected nations. Sri Lanka has already put forth a proposal to establish a climate change university in the country. Through all these efforts, Sri Lanka hopes to source funds as compensation for the detrimental effects caused by climate change.
පරිසර දූෂණය සිදුවන්නේ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රියලයිසේෂන් එකත් එක්ක කාර්මික විප්ලවයත් එක්ක. එතකොට වැඩියෙන්ම නිෂ්පාදනය කරන
Environmental pollution occurs due to industrialization. The largest manufacturers are the greatest polluters. But Third world countries such as Sri Lanka are the ones that face the detrimental effects of those. Although a pledge was made to provide $100 billion during COP26 in Paris, it has not been done. We expect to fulfill three aims. The first is to influence the international community, get together the nations who face all the ill effects, and to call for investments to be made to offset environmental pollution. We hope to create a new forum.
ආයෝජනය ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රජාව තුලින් ලබා දිය යුතුයි කියන එකට මැදිහත් වෙන්න. අලුත් සංසදයක් අපි පිහිටවන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. Investing on the tropical belt towards tackling the triple plenary crisis.
The President has decided to establish a climate change university. A land of 600 acres has been reserved near Kothmale for this purpose. He has intended that a portion of the university be operated in the Maldives.
Parallelly, the government has been drawing flack for fielding a large delegation to attend COP28.
The President has decided to establish a climate change university. A land of 600 acres has been reserved near Kothmale for this purpose. He has intended that a portion of the university be operated in the Maldives.
Parallelly, the government has been drawing flack for fielding a large delegation to attend COP28.
Only 6 people represent in the political establishment, including the President, will attend. 2 of them will represent the opposition. All others are state employees, representatives of the Youth Services Council and individuals from the private sector. They will be attending through their personal funds. We have identified that Sri Lanka requires a minimum of $12 billion to establish processes to generate power through renewable sources by 2030.
The debate of the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing was held in Parliament today. The debate focused on the budget proposal to change ownership of the flats that belong to the Colombo Municipal Council to the public. There aren't 5,000 houses in Colombo for the UDA to provide deeds. It's a lie. I have it with me. Out of 24 housing projects, there are only 14,512 houses. They'll now say it's only the ones that the UDA made, but also the ones that Ranasinghe Premadasa did. Yes, there is, but you can't hand over deeds because the original owners are not there anymore. Now what must be charged is 9 billion from the people and the treasury. A further 17,000 billion is yet to be received. 17,000 billion has not been allocated in this budget. But this is a lie. This is a trap set by Sagar Ratnayaka to enter the city of Colombo to secure his votes. The president, who was elected by the Port Tour, won the election with rural votes. You're lost in Colombo and there's no proposal for anything out of Colombo.
ගෙවල් හදන්න කිසිම යෝජනාවක් නැහැ මේකේ. ඒ කුමාන්ත්‍රය කරේ හින්දා තමයි නායකතුමාට කවදාකවත් දිනන්න බැරි වුණේ. අපි තමයි එතුමා ජනාධිපති කරේ. මතක තියාගන්න. අපි එතුමාගේ නායකත්වය රැකලා එතුමා
We saved his leadership and made conspiracies within the party to make him president. If you go after this, you will not find it. The way to get work done by him is not this. I will teach you later. You will have to struggle only for another 6 more months. The next will be a Premadasa government. Now you said that the Urban Development Authority has 14,559 houses. There are 4,730 in the urban section of the National Housing Development Authority. 32,294 are excluded. There are 682 in the Urban Settlement Development Authority. And the total is 52,265. But we think there is much more.
50,000ක් කොළඹ නගරේ නැහැ. අනාධිපතිතුමා කිසිම අවස්ථාවක කොළඹ නගරේ 50,000ක් දෙනවා කියන්නේ නැහැ.
No, wait a minute. Right now, deeds have been handed over to the houses brought from UDA and RDA. Deeds have been given for those purchased from government organizations. That's true. I don't say no. But these 50,000 flats are not in Colombo City or Colombo District. That's what I'm saying. We know that. That is why I'm saying that we have arranged to give deeds for all the 3 flats in Mahindra, Sirasa and Metro Homes in 2024. That is why the President hoped to finish this in a short period of time. 5 people, including Dr. Kapila Vikramanayaka, the Director of the Medical Supplies Division of the Health Ministry, who were arrested by the CID over the substandard human immunoglobulin delivery, were remanded to the 13th of December.
The case filed over the substandard human immunoglobulin delivery was called up in the presence of Maliga Kanda magistrate Lochani Abevikrama. Recently, it was revealed that 22,500 vials of substandard human immunoglobulin produced using human blood were ordered using forged documentation. Initially, it was mentioned that the vials were imported to the country. However, later it was revealed that the vials were in fact produced in Sri Lanka. The value of the consigned human immunoglobulin is estimated at almost 1 billion rupees.
The Sri Lanka rupee has depreciated further against the US dollar. Now, according to the exchange rates published by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the selling rate of the USD was rupees 334 and the buying rate of the USD was rupees 325 and 75 cents. The selling rate of the pound was rupees 425 and 81 cents. The selling rate of the euro was rupees 368 and 33 cents.
Montek Singh, who is considered the architect of India's economic prosperity, is currently in Sri Lanka, and he commented on Sri Lanka's economic position.
Sri Lanka's case, you have gone through an extraordinarily difficult economic crisis. I think it's to the credit of the country and the system that you have negotiated something with the IMF. And the impression is that although the downslide is not yet over, it has got arrested. So maybe there's some degree of stabilization from which one can move forward. But in many ways, the difficult part is still ahead. And internationally, people must be looking and saying, look, here is a country that's going through an election. It is only an elected government with a parliamentary majority somehow organized that can credibly commit to policies. But in the meantime, if there is a perception that there's a basis for different parties to come together or to support policies, the likelihood is that investors will view it favorably. And I think that's a very important issue for anyone thinking of what to do. When people look at the evolution of policy, and indeed any political party wanting to, if asked the question, how are you going to address the macro balance, has to be able to address this question. Is raising the tax ratio on your agenda, and what is the way in which it's going to be done? If that is ignored, then it will not carry any confidence in the international setup.
Montek Singh made these comments following a meeting with opposition leader Sajid Premadasa in Colombo. Both sides had discussed avenues that can be used for Sri Lanka's economic growth.
As Udayana discount. Enjoy up to 70% off from Vikramaharshi.
6 treasures looted by the Dutch were returned to Sri Lanka.
6 colonial-era treasures, including a cannon inlaid with gold, silver and bronze, known as LOLC cannon, that were looted by the Dutch, were handed over to Sri Lanka early on Wednesday morning. The official handover was made by the ambassador of the Netherlands to Sri Lanka at the Bandaranayake International Airport. The artifacts were accepted by Minister Vidura Wickramanayake. The artifacts are LOLC's cannon or the cannon of Kandy, a gold kastan or ceremonial sword, Sinhalese knife, a silver kastan and 2 guns. At the request of Sri Lanka, the Netherlands returned the 6 objects of cultural significance, and the Dutch government had noted that the objects were wrongfully brought to the Netherlands during the colonial period, acquired under duress or by looting.
Day 57 of the LOLC Divisavia program took place centering Ambalangoda and Alpitia.
The second leg of the LOLC Divisavia program will provide school books and stationery items to schools with less than 100 students. Students will be provided school books and stationery for a period of 1 year under this program. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC Group and the Ministry of Education. The LOLC Divisavia program took place at the Ambalangoda and Alpetia education zones. School books and stationery items were given to the students at the Sir Arthur C. Clarke Model School, Agaliya Mahavidyalaya, Randanigama Primary School, Unagaswela Primary School, Eramulla Primary School, Ambana Primary School, Koluvelagoda Primary School, Balavitia Primary School and several other schools. School books and stationery items were given to the students at the Ambalanguda and Alpitia zonal education offices. The LOLC Divya program will continue to create a bright future for the country's student population.
Mali, an elephant sent to the Philippines by the Sri Lankan government in the 1970s, has died.
An elephant christened by activists as one of the world's saddest has died at a Philippine zoo, where she lived almost all her life alone in a pen. Tributes have poured in for Mali, who was the star attraction at Manila Zoo for 4 decades and much beloved. Mali, believed to be around 50 years old, was first brought to the Manila Zoo, Southeast Asia's oldest menagerie, when she was just 3 years old. The Sri Lankan government sent Mali to the Philippines, which then had the only zoo in the region, in the 1970s after she was found orphaned in the wild.
Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan's party has said that he had named one of his lawyers as his temporary stand-in to contest the position of party head. Jailed former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party released a video showing barrister Gohar Khan announcing his nomination. The nominee said, "I will fill in for Imran Khan," adding that Khan was and will always remain party chief. The party needs a new chairman to hold elections scheduled for Saturday to elect a new party chairman and other office bearers, as former national cricketing hero Khan, being convicted, is barred from taking part. The Election Commission of Pakistan last week gave the party 20 days to hold the intra-party elections, which are needed for him to keep the cricket bat as its election symbol. Barrister Ali Zafar, another of Khan's lawyers, said that the replacement was just a babysitting arrangement. Khan was convicted and sentenced to 3 years in prison in August on corruption charges. General elections are scheduled for February 8, 2024, with Khan's party facing former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party as its main opponent. In sports, it's cricket. The men's 2024 Future Tours program of Sri Lanka Cricket was announced earlier today. The Sri Lanka national team will commence its 2024 international cricket calendar with a home series against Zimbabwe in January, which will consist of 3 ODIs and 3 T20 international series. It would be followed by a series against Afghanistan during January-February period, consisting of 1 test match, 3 ODIs and 3 T20 internationals. Then the Sri Lankan national team will be heading to Bangladesh for an all-format tour before heading to the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024, which will be played in West Indies and USA. India, New Zealand and the West Indies are also expected to arrive in the country for tours under the FTP during 2024. The national team will play England in a 3-match test series in England during mid-year, while the 2024 season will end with tours to South Africa and New Zealand. Stafford International School won a friendly football encounter against Ethos International School.
A friendly football encounter between Ethos International School and Stafford International School took place recently. This is the first time a football encounter took place between the two schools. The football matches were played at the Baddegana Football Complex under the boys and girls categories. Stafford International School won both encounters. They won the girls' game 22-0 and the boys' game 11-0.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care and good night.